Hi, this is Kylie Heath, and I'm going to walk you through some of the blended unit that I created for this course. I chose to design my unit using the flipped model, and then within the classroom we'll be doing a station rotation. First of all, I decided to put my unit on Schoology, so the students will use this access code to become part of the course, and then they will click on the Start folder. In this folder is where I have all of the different posters that we created within the course, so students know all of the different policies related to the blended learning. I will also have these posters hanging up in the classroom for when they're in class, but they will also have access to these documents from home. One minor change that I did make is that now instead of logging onto Canvas, I chose, like I said, Schoology as the learning management system. The Start folder is also where students can access the document in case they have trouble with anything accessing it from home. So they can refer to this poster in case they have any issues. So again, just some different documents and resources for them to refer to if they have any questions about expectations or any of the policies. Now, before we get into actually seeing what I've created for the unit, I also just want to show I have a folder with discussion boards in case students have questions from home. There's general questions and then any questions as far as tech goes. And if other students are able to answer the questions that the students have, great. Or if I have an answer that I can provide them, then I can answer it also on the discussion board. I broke the unit down into specific days, and since I decided on using the flipped classroom, the first day is actually called day zero. This will be an assignment that they will be given probably on, let's say, a Friday before the weekend, and they will access the overview, which just explains what they need to do. So they will have an introduction video, and then they will need to be taking notes using the guided note sheet that I hand out on Friday. And after the overview, I have the documents that they need in order to complete this assignment. So they will have access to the electronic copy of the guided notes in case they need that, in case they lost it or if they weren't in class on Friday. They will have access to the PDF version of the notes. So you can see here with the examples. And then also after that, I have the video. As students watch this video, they will work through some basic information about the rational expressions, and then they will get to a point where they'll be copying down some of the examples. So, like I said, those examples are already listed out in the guided note packet. They just need to, use the information and copy down the examples as they're worked through in this video. Then when students come to class, let's say on Monday after they've watched the video and the lesson, then there will be an independent, a partner, and a small group station. Now, none of this requires technology, but I did list everything out, all of the documents that will be used in class in case a student is absent. So even if they're not here on Monday after they've completed the assignment from what they've done over the weekend, they can still access an overview to see what's being done in class. So I have it broken down by station, the independent, the partner, and the small group. And then the flipped assignment, I just considered a homework assignment. That's just how I have it laid out, just to eliminate any confusion, even though it is technically the lesson that they're going to be doing for homework. So underneath that, for there's resources listed. So not only will students be able to access this within the day one folder, as you can see here, I also have it listed in the overview for them to access there. For the flipped assignment, like I said, it is labeled homework, and then they have access to all of those materials that they need. And this is set up very similarly. So they would, for homework for the flipped assignment, they access the note sheet again through PDF or use the one that I handed out in class. So they have a few more examples of simplifying rational expressions. The videos will be next for this one. It is broken down into two videos. So I have this first video will cover the examples 6 through 8. And then the next video I have posted that was through YouTube will cover examples 9 through 10. Um, and then that brings us to the second day of the week, but really the third day of the unit. So after students have watched the previous night's videos again, taken more examples down, then again, this is just the basic structure. This is what's going to be happening in class, what students are expected to do, and then their homework is the flipped assignment again using the technology. My thought process for how I'm going to grade this really, students will be required to obviously do the guided notes and watch the videos because that's the lesson. And then if they're not here, if they're absent, then they have the access to the different resources. But the only assignment that they'll be required to complete if they're not in class will be the independent assignment. They will have access, like I said, to the documents and the materials that are used in the partner station and also the small group station, but that can really just be for extra practice if they feel they need it. One thing that I did want to point out that Blended did suggest when we are doing a blended unit is that the structure should stay the same from lesson to lesson, from unit to unit, and really the only thing that should change is the content in there. So you can see as I scroll through, each day is set up the same. The only day that's different really is the day 0 because that's the introduction lesson that they'll be doing at home. Then all of these days they have the overview, they have the work for the independent, the partner, and the small group station that would be completed in class, and then their homework assignment is using the technology, the blended learning aspect of this that incorporates that flipped classroom. So everything's labeled almost exactly the same. It's all in the same order. Really, the only thing that's changing from day to day is the content. Okay, so now to answer some of the questions. So far, my blended learning unit has been going okay. I only incorporated one lesson so far, so I haven't really gotten a real feel for how it's going. Usually, when I assign Khan Academy's activities for homework, I have about 3/4 of the students complete it on time, and that's really what I saw for this flipped assignment as well. About 3/4 of the class watched the video and took the notes and came to class prepared, and the other quarter of the class did not do that. I have not implemented any of the stations yet. I decided that I was just going to do the flipped element to start to kind of see how that went, which I'm glad that I did because with a quarter of the class not coming to class prepared and watching the videos prior to entering the classroom, I was able to adapt a little bit easier than if I had prepared different stations for the students to go to. One of the things that I would have changed is I probably would have um, introduced the lesson a little bit better before assigning any of the videos for the students to take the notes on. As far as the examples go, this concept really requires a lot of background knowledge. And even though the videos do incorporate a little bit of that before they begin the examples, I just don't think that the students were able to make those connections themselves. So then they were pretty confused with some of the things that were happening in the examples that they were copying. Nothing really happened that I did not expect, mostly because I think this course prepared us to kind of expect the unexpected. So nothing really caught me off guard. Nothing too significant happened. Like I said, I only incorporated one flipped assignment so far. So I think as I progress forward and the more that I assign and the more I incorporate, then maybe more issues will arise. One challenge that I had was that part of the reason for flipping the classroom was not only to provide the materials and resources and lessons to students that were missing instruction, but also to increase in-class practice. And one of the things that I noticed happening was even though the lesson was watched at home and the examples were taken at home, We spent a lot of the class kind of just summarizing what the students should have learned instead of actually getting them to practice what they were learning. So there was a lot of just kind of me clarifying some things that were said in the videos that they had to have watched. Um, so it kind of defeated the purpose of having a flipped assignment. I think one of the issues that came from is that obviously with math there's so many different ways to explain things. There's different terms that can be used, and when students are used to things being explained a certain way and certain vocabulary used, and then they're exposed to a different way of teaching, that can create some confusion. So I think that was also part of the challenge and why things needed to be clarified when they came into class the next day. I think one of my biggest questions still, especially with the flipped classroom, is how do I get students on board to, you know, decrease the amount of students that are coming to class unprepared. They're so used to going through the motions, and when they're given homework assignments, I think they really rely on each other a lot, to complete those assignments. And now with a flipped classroom, they are expected to not only copy down the examples, but have an idea of what the concept is that they're supposed to be learning and be able to have a conversation about it. So I'm just kind of wondering, how do I get them to change the way that they learn since they have kind of become set in their ways of just kind of going through the motions. And lastly, I think my biggest aha with incorporating some blended lessons is that it doesn't all have to be done at once. So like I said, I only incorporated one lesson so far, and even though I spent most of the next class summarizing what they should have learned, it really allowed us to have some really good academic conversations about certain things, and have the students talk about what they should have been learning and why it was different from, the traditional teaching that they've been used to. So I think even though it didn't necessarily serve the purpose that it was supposed to, I think it was still effective because it opened that opportunity to have those conversations. So just the fact that we can implement blended learning piece by piece and it still be effective, I think is a huge eye opener and definitely really encouraging moving forward. Well, once again, I went way over the time limit, but I hope you enjoyed my unit and I enjoyed the class and look forward to seeing everyone else's unit. Thanks.